I sighed deeply as I tossed my laptop onto the couch, frustrated by yet another argument with Derek and Casey. It was like a broken record, playing the same tune of disrespect and dismissal over and over again. "Is it really too much to ask for a little help around here?" I said, glaring at Derek lounging in his recliner, engrossed in some mindless TV show. "I work just as many hours as you do, but somehow all the household responsibilities fall on me." Derek barely looked up from the screen. "If you have a problem with how things are, then maybe you should quit your little hobby and focus on being a better housewife." My blood boiled at his condescending remark. "My little hobby is a successful freelance design business that brings in half our income, you ungrateful ass." Casey snickered from the couch, his eyes glued to his phone. "Yeah, but let's be real. Dad's the one with the real job carrying this family." I whirled to face him, my frustration reaching a boiling point. "You've got a lot of nerve, mooching off us while contributing nothing but snarky comments." Derek finally looked up. "Don't talk to my son that way. If you did your job right, he wouldn't have to lift a finger." That was it, the final straw. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, emotions raging inside me. You know what? I'm done. I'm so damn tired of being disrespected and taken for granted in my own home. "Where are you going?" Derek called out, a hint of surprise in his voice. I paused at the door, turning to face them both with a defiant glare. "Somewhere I'm appreciated. Don't bother calling until you've learned to value everything I do for this family." With that, I stormed out, slamming the door behind me. No more being a doormat. From now on, they were going to realize exactly how much I contributed, and just how invaluable I truly was. I pulled into the parking lot of the Bluebird Motel, a small establishment on the edge of town. It wasn't the Ritz, but it would serve its purpose, providing me a quiet refuge to work and gather my thoughts after that disastrous argument. As I entered the modest room, I tossed my bag on the bed and opened my laptop, desperate to meet the looming deadline for my latest design project. With a deep breath, I tried to push aside the swirl of emotions and focus on the task at hand. But my mind kept drifting back to the years of being dismissed and disrespected by Derek and Casey. All the nights I stayed up late, burning the midnight oil to meet client demands while still handling all the household responsibilities. The endless loads of laundry, grocery shopping, meal prepping, tasks that went completely unappreciated by my so-called family. Tears of anger and hurt stung my eyes as I recalled Derek's callous words, reducing my thriving design career to a mere hobby. As if the income I brought in wasn't just as vital as his paycheck in keeping our household afloat. And Casey was no better, content to leech off our hard-earned money while mocking my contributions. The smug entitlement radiating from that spoiled brat made my blood boil. No more. I was done being the unsung hero, the unappreciated workhorse of the family. If they couldn't see my value, I'd make them feel the impact of my absence, and they'd be damn sorry they took me for granted. With renewed determination, I attacked the design project, pouring all my frustration and pent-up resentment into creating something truly exceptional for my client. I'd show them all what a little hobby could achieve when passion and talent joined forces. By the time the first rays of dawn peeked through the curtains, I had put the finishing touches on what might be my best work yet. A small, satisfied smile crossed my lips as I hit send on the file. "That's just a taste of what you've been overlooking, fellas," I muttered under my breath. "Get ready, because you haven't seen anything yet." After basking in the satisfaction of delivering a stellar project, I turned my attention to the next phase of my plan. It was time for Derek and Casey to truly feel the impact of my absence. With a few taps on my laptop, I remotely canceled the utility payments and halted the automated grocery and household supply orders. A twisted smile crossed my lips as I pictured the chaos that would soon unfold back at the house. Sure enough, within a couple of days, my phone started blowing up with angry texts and calls from Derek. "Reagan, what the hell? The power and water just got shut off." I let the call go to voicemail, ignoring his demands for an explanation. Then came a barrage of texts from Casey. "Yo, did you forget to pay the bills again? Real nice, we have no Wi-Fi now." As the days passed, the messages grew increasingly desperate. "Seriously, babe, let's talk this out. The house is a mess and we're out of food. Mom, I can't even do my laundry. This is getting ridiculous. Part of me relished in their rising panic and dependence on the order I used to maintain so effortlessly, but I remained stoic, unmoved by their pleas. Finally, after nearly a week of radio silence from me, Derek showed up at the motel room, his face flushed with anger. "Open up, Reagan. I know you're in there." I cracked the door open, eyeing him coolly. "What do you want, Derek? Cut the crap and come home. This little tantrum of yours has gone far enough." I laughed derisively. "Tantrum? I'm simply giving you both a glimpse of what life is like without me handling everything." Derek's eyes narrowed. "So what, you're holding the household hostage? Real mature, Reagan." "Don't act so shocked," I shot back. "You'd think after all these years of me running the show you'd have a little more appreciation for everything I do." To my satisfaction, Derek's bravado faltered, seemingly at a loss for words. "Don't worry," I continued. "I'm happy to restore order and make your life comfortable again. But first, you're going to start showing me the respect I deserve around here." With that, I shut the door in his stunned face, leaving him to stew in the disarray he once took for granted. A couple days after my confrontation with Derek at the motel, I decided to pay my mother, Vivian, a visit. I needed a break from the escalating tensions with my husband and stepson, and her place had always been a peaceful refuge. "Honey, it's so good to see you," she said as she ushered me inside, "though I wish it were under better circumstances." She gave me a concerned look. "Derek called, ranting about you refusing to come home. What's going on?" I sighed, plopping down on her well-worn couch. "The usual, Mom, me doing everything while he and Casey treat me like a glorified maid." I shook my head. I finally put my foot down, and now they're feeling the consequences. Vivian pursed her lips but didn't argue. She knew better than anyone the disrespect I'd endured from my family over the years. As we chatted, my eyes drifted to a battered cardboard box tucked in the corner of her living room. "What's all that?" I asked, nodding towards it. "Oh, just some old papers and mementos," she replied with a dismissive wave. "I was going through the attic and found it mixed in with your father's things." My curiosity was piqued, and I rose to take a closer look. Vivian didn't object as I began sifting through the box's contents, a jumbled assortment of letters, receipts, and other documents. That's when I spotted it, a stack of banking statements and overdue notices from several credit card companies, all addressed to Derek. "Mom, what is all this?" I asked, a sinking feeling in my gut. Vivian peered over my shoulder at the papers. "I'm not sure, dear. Your father never mentioned anything about money troubles." As I examined the documents more closely, it became disturbingly clear that Derek had been hiding massive debt from reckless gambling by the looks of it. And based on the dates, this had been going on for years, long before we'd even met. Anger and betrayal lanced through me as I realized he must have been siphoning funds from our joint accounts to cover his losses and avoid collections. Memories flashed of all the times I'd carefully budgeted for household expenses, only to have my figures thrown off with no explanation. My hands shook as I gathered up the damning paperwork. That lying, cheating bastard! Vivian's eyes widened at the venom in my voice. "Reagan, what's going on?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself as I rose. "Just found another reason to stick it to Derek, that's all." I marched out of her house, plans for revenge taking shape in my mind. Derek wanted to see how valuable I was to our household? Well, I was about to demolish his world, starting with the crumbling financial facade he'd worked so hard to maintain. Armed with the evidence of Derek's deceit, I felt a renewed sense of determination. It was time to take my revenge to the next level and really make him squirm. I marched back to the house, the box of incriminating documents tucked under my arm. To my surprise, the front door was unlocked. Clearly, Derek had grown complacent in my absence. "You've got a lot of nerve showing your face here," Derek spat as I barged into the living room. Casey looked up from his phone, eyes widening. Hey, Reagan?" I ignored them both, dropping the box onto the coffee table with a thud. "You want to know why I've been refusing to come home? Take a look." Derek frowned as he riffled through the papers, but his expression quickly morphed into one of horror. "Where did you get these?" he hissed. "Oh, from your stash of secrets you've been hiding all these years," I countered. "Nice gambling habit, by the way. Been having fun blowing through our savings? Casey's brow furrowed in confusion. Wait, what's going on? Stay out of this. Derek snapped at his son before turning his glare back to me. You had no right going through my private affairs. I scoffed loudly. Private affairs? You mean the affairs you've been keeping from me while draining our accounts behind my back? Realization seemed to dawn on Casey's face as he looked between us uncertainly. Derek, meanwhile, had gone pale. Seizing the opportunity, I pressed on. Here's the deal. Either you shape up and agree to some serious counseling to work through this massive betrayal. I let the words hang in the air as Derek clenched his jaw. Or I take these papers and every shred of evidence about your reckless behavior public. For a moment, Derek seemed to weigh his options. His jaw twitched as his gaze flickered between me and the documents. You're bluffing, he finally said, though his tone lacked conviction. Am I? I challenged, stepping closer until I was nose to nose with him. After all these years of me covering for you, playing the dutiful wife while you ran around like a selfish child, I'm done with your crap, Derek. It's time to face the consequences. Derek opened his mouth to respond, but seemed to think better of it. A tense silence stretched between us, the air thick with unspoken anger and resentment. Finally, Casey cleared his throat. Maybe you guys should just, go to that counseling thing? His expression was almost pleading as he looked imploringly at his father. Derek's nostrils flared, and I could see the war raging behind his eyes, pride battling pragmatism. With a decisive sneer, he seemed to make his choice. Forget it, he spat, whirling on his heel and storming out of the room, leaving a stunned Casey gaping after him. A cold smile crept across my lips. If Derek thought this was the end, he was sorely mistaken. I was just getting started. Derek's obstinate refusal to face his issues and attend counseling was the final straw. If he wanted to cling to his misguided pride, so be it, but he wouldn't be dragging me down with him any longer. It was time to expose him for the deceitful, reckless man he truly was. I spent the next few days meticulously gathering evidence, documentation, and personal accounts that portrayed Derek's shameful behavior. With a little creativity and some slick graphic design work, I crafted a damning expose that left no room for doubt regarding his gambling addiction and shady financial dealings. Finally, I took to social media and various community forums, blasting out the incriminating compilation far and wide. Within hours, the reactions began pouring in. Oh my God, I had no idea the Moros were dealing with this. Derek always seemed like such a stand-up guy. This is horrible. How could he do this to his wife and family? Disgusting. I watched with grim satisfaction as Derek's meticulously crafted public image crumbled in the wake of his hidden indiscretions being aired for all to see. But I didn't stop there. No, Derek's humiliation would be complete. Leveraging my finely honed marketing skills, I launched a promotional campaign for my design business that highlighted my personal journey of perseverance and self-empowerment. Inspirational graphics, uplifting messaging, and carefully selected testimonials from clients painted a portrait of the talented, resilient woman I was, in stark contrast to the disgraced scoundrel I'd endured for far too long. Within days, my social media was ablaze with an outpouring of support and admiration. New business inquiries flooded my inbox, and my following skyrocketed as people rallied behind the heartwarming story of my professional triumph over personal adversity. Amidst the whirlwind of attention, I received a call from Derek. His voice was low, seething with impotent rage. "You're ruining me," he growled. "Is that what you want? To see your husband lose everything while you bask in the spotlight?" A cold smile crossed my lips as I reveled in his pain. "I want the world to see the truth about who you really are," I replied evenly. "As for me, I'm simply rising from the shadows you kept me trapped in and shining a light on my own worth." There was a pause, then Derek exhaled a shuddering breath. "You're going to regret this," he grated out, then abruptly hung up. But as I surveyed the overwhelming positivity surrounding my newly empowered image, I felt nothing but vindicated resolve. Derek had sown the seeds of his own demolition. I was simply the one bold enough to finally reap what he deserved. In the aftermath of my explosive revelations about Derek's misdeeds, the fallout was even more satisfying than I could have imagined. His reputation in tatters, he became a pariah, the subject of gossip, and disdainful whispers wherever he went. But the true coup de grace was his rapidly deteriorating financial situation. Once the creditors realized Derek's web of lies had been exposed, they wasted no time unleashing the force of their collections efforts. Suddenly, all those gambling debts he'd been frantically juggling came crashing down in one fell swoop. It wasn't long before Derek was knocking at my door again, this time with a very different demeanor. Gone was the arrogant bluster, replaced by the pathetic, almost groveling air of a man watching his life unravel. "Reagan," he began, his voice uncharacteristically meek. "You've made your point. You win, okay? I was wrong and I screwed up badly." I folded my arms and eyed him coolly, unmoved by his obvious attempt to play on my sympathies. "What do you want, Derek?" he sighed, rubbing a hand over his face warily. "I need you to come home. Help me straighten this nightmare out before I lose everything." A harsh laugh escaped my lips. And why exactly would I do that, after all the lies, the deceit, the blatant disrespect? I shook my head slowly. "No, you made this bed, Derek. Time to lie in it." Frustration flickered across his features. "Don't be unreasonable, Reagan. Our lives, our finances, everything is intertwined. If I go under, it'll drag you down too." "Maybe you should have thought about that before gambling away our future," I countered flatly. Derek opened his mouth, no doubt, to offer another guilt-ridden appeal, but was cut off by an unexpected voice. "She's right, you know." We both turned to see Casey emerging from the shadows. His expression hardened. "You only have yourself to blame for this whole disaster." Derek's eyes widened in surprise and hurt at his son's accusatory stance. "Casey, you're taking her side? After everything I've done for you?" But Casey remained resolute, his jaw set in grim determination. "No, Dad. I'm just seeing the truth for what it is, instead of letting you feed me more lies." He shook his head slowly. "Reagan's the one who's been holding everything together, while you jeopardized it all with your selfishness." A muscle twitched in Derek's cheek as he struggled to find a rebuttal, but nothing came. In that moment, he looked utterly defeated, just a sad, pathetic shadow of the arrogant blowhard he used to be. I couldn't help but feel a surge of vicious satisfaction at seeing him crumble, forced to confront the consequences of his ego and the crumbling facade of the life he'd built on my sacrifice. "Get out, Derek," I stated flatly, unwilling to let his self-pity sway me further. "I'm done cleaning up your messes." With one last broken glance between me and Casey, Derek seemed to shrink in on himself as he turned and trudged away in silence, leaving me to begin setting the course for my new, unencumbered life. With Derek's pathetic, tail between his legs retreat, a massive weight lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt truly free, liberated from the chains of his deception and toxic disrespect. The divorce proceedings moved swiftly, as Derek had little ground to contest my demands after the spectacular implosion of his life. I didn't ask for much beyond my fair share, content to start over unencumbered by his mounting debts. As the final paperwork was signed and notarized, I couldn't help but steal a glance at the hollow, broken husk of a man sitting across from me. How quickly the once smug, arrogant Derek had crumbled in the wake of his own hubris. Part of me felt a twinge of pity, but it was overwhelmingly overshadowed by the immense sense of relief washing over me. "This is really what you want?" he asked, his voice barely above a mumble as he stared blankly at the divorce decree. I met his gaze levelly, my jaw set in firm resolution. "It's what I deserve, Derek, to finally be free of your lies and disrespect." He opened his mouth as if to protest further, but seemed to think better of it. With a slow, resigned nod, he scribbled his signature and pushed the papers back across the table. Just like that, it was officially over between us. I was a new woman, unshackled from the unhealthy dynamic that had stifled me for far too long. In the days that followed, I wasted no time in beginning my new chapter. The money from my divorce settlement, combined with the windfall of new business from my viral campaign, allowed me to purchase a cozy 2-bedroom house just outside the city. Simple but chic, it was the perfect fresh start, tailored to my solo needs, though I did make sure to convert the spare room into a comfortable suite where my mom could stay whenever she liked. "This place is just perfect for you, honey?" Vivian gushed as I gave her the grand tour during her first visit. A warm, proud smile crinkled the corners of her eyes as she pulled me into a tight embrace. "I'm so incredibly proud of the way you stood up for yourself." I hugged her back fiercely, basking in the swell of emotion brought on by her unconditional support and my newfound independence. For the first time in ages, I felt complete, self-assured, and in control of my own destiny. Over the following weeks, I settled into my new home and routines with a vigor and optimism I hadn't experienced in years. Each morning, I'd wake up energized, ready to dive headfirst into a new slate of exciting design projects and business opportunities. And in my downtime, I'd look around my little sanctuary, the cozy living room adorned with hand-picked decor, the sunlight streaming through the windows, and smile contentedly. This was my hard-earned reward, a tangible manifestation of the strength and resilience I never knew I possessed. The old Reagan, who meekly accepted disrespect in the name of keeping the peace, was gone forever. In her place stood a self-assured woman who understood her immense value and self-worth, a woman who refused to spend another day in the shadows of an ungrateful partner. And as I reflected on the tumultuous journey that led me to this new beginning, I silently vowed to never let anyone or anything dull that inner fire again.